All right, very good. Then we move to item 5 on our agenda, which is the segment for public hearings. And we do have a public hearing tonight. This is our second public hearing with respect to electrical aggregation, which I hope that everyone in this room has heard about. I guess we'll go right to it then.
We'll go right to it. Allison Deitch from the manager's office is here to present updated information in our second and final public hearing regarding aggregation.
Do we need to set up the framework for the public hearing first?
You need to call it to order.
That's what I thought. I didn't know if there was going to be an introduction or not before we call it to order. Unless there's any preliminary comments, then I'll go ahead and call it to order. All right, very good. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. This public hearing has been called by the Village Council pursuant to the Illinois Power Agency Act to consider the proposed electric aggregation plan of operation and governance for an electrical aggregation program of the Village of Downers Grove. Notice of this hearing was published in the Downers Grove Reporter, and a copy of the notice and the proof of publication have been presented and are made a part of the official record of this hearing. I would like to summarize the procedures by which we will follow for tonight's public hearing. First, I will ask the village manager or his designee to summarize the proposed electric aggregation plan of operation and governance program. Second, I will then ask if any member of the village council wishes to make a statement or ask a question. Third, there will then be an opportunity for members of the public to make statements or comments, or to submit written statements or comments for the record. Fourth, I will then ask once more if any member of the village council wishes to ask a question or make a statement. Fifth, and finally, thereafter the hearing will be adjourned. At this hearing, witnesses will not be sworn, and no verbatim transcript of the statements or testimony given at the hearing will be taken. However, a recording of the procedures will be made on village-owned equipment and retained until minutes of the hearing have been prepared and approved by the village council. So with that, we'll move right to item number 2, which is the village manager presentation. Good evening, Allison.
Good evening. As part of the aggregation process, we are required to hold 2 public hearings for our plan of operation and governance. Tonight, as part of the second public hearing, I'll provide a brief summary on the plan's key points and highlight our next steps. Municipal aggregation is a program that allows municipalities to arrange for lower electricity supply rates on behalf of their residents. Because electricity is a deregulated utility, ComEd customers are free to purchase the supply of their electricity from an alternative supplier. This supply component is approximately 60% of the average customer's bill. In an aggregation program, the municipality uses the economy of scale to seek an even lower price than the individual could arrange in the market. The village received authorization to implement an aggregation program through a March 20th referendum. We will seek competitive pricing for electricity supply. And while ComEd will still be responsible for distribution, Downers Grove residents and eligible small businesses will pay lower electricity bills. It's important to note that any customer that does not wish to be included in the program will have the opportunity to opt out before the new contract goes into effect. I'll provide a brief summary of the plan of operation and governance. The plan of governance is required under state law. It reflects the feedback we received from the community during the education process for the referendum, as well as best practices and lessons learned from other communities that have implemented aggregation programs. Among other things, the plan of governance describes the requirements that eligible suppliers will have to meet in order to be considered for the contract. And this plan ensures that suppliers know upfront the conditions of supplying electricity to our residents. Additionally, this plan allows us to set up conditions that will protect our residents and ensure a transparent and effective opt-out process. Finally, it also describes eligible categories of customers. For example, we expressly identify those who cannot be included in the program and those who will not be included because they will not see the same savings. Based on the feedback from our May 1st public hearing, we made small changes to the plan of governance, which was updated last week on the village's website. We made 2 changes. We increased the period for residents to opt out of our program from 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And we revised the language that refers to renewing the contract so that the supplier has to provide the best rate rather than just beat ComEd's rate when the initial contract term ends. And just briefly, our next steps and a timeline for moving forward. Tonight, we're holding our second public hearing on the plan of governance. On the active agenda, the council will consider the adoption of the plan of governance and an ordinance authorizing the aggregation program. And then we will issue the RFP this week, And in June, the Village Council will review the suppliers and determine whether to solicit a rate that includes renewable energy credits. That's all I have for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I will then ask if any member of the Village Council wishes to make a statement or ask a question on this topic. No questions, no statements. I will then turn and open it up to members of the public, the audience here tonight, with respect to any questions or comments on the electrical aggregation, plan of operation, and governance.
Yeah, I have a question.
Good evening again.
Yes. You want my
If
name
you could
again?
just identify, yes, please, because
Oh,
we
it's
are
Vijay
keeping minutes.
Vijay Kohn,
Thank you.
6230 Belmont, Downers Grove, Illinois. I was wondering what kind of reduction, you mentioned several rate reductions and savings for customers. You never give any numbers or anything, you just simply stated that. Is there a specific goal that you plan to reach?
Actually, what we're waiting for are for responses to come back from various different sources. We're working towards what will be a number of choices in terms of what the rates will be. We could give Allison could give you some ideas of what expected savings might be, but ultimately we need to have some particulars before us, and then we're going to make a decision. But we're not quite there yet.
Sure, I could just say that the rates would be obtained through a competitive bid process so that the lowest bidder would go be the supplier. We have seen in other communities that have implemented programs like this, savings of 15 to 30% on the supply side of the rate.
But ultimately, what the precise savings are and the conditions of those savings will be determined by the particular arrangement that the village ultimately enters into once we have those choices before us. We're just not there yet. So please stay tuned. I'm actually glad that there are a lot of people here in the audience to hear this, because this is an important option and opportunity which folks can choose to either participate in or not. So it's really a win-win situation. Any other questions or comments with respect to the electrical aggregation, plan of operation, and governance? Good evening.
Stacy Salmon, 4945 Highland. And I wanted to thank those of you who responded to my emails and took the time to reply. I do appreciate that. And thank you very much for keeping the discussion of renewables as part of this issue. It's an important issue, and I do appreciate that you guys are keeping this conversation going, because I know we all are kind of learning here as we go through this. I'm just here, just to kind of keep that conversation going in light of the events that happened in Central Illinois. A lot of communities that chose renewable, and Lombard, a very compelling story there with their price difference of what came in between their renewable and their traditional powers. About 75 cents difference between the two is a pretty compelling price difference to, anyway, so I just really wanted to say two things here. And one is that this issue really is kind of more about supporting a market. The clean energy market still faces a lot of market barriers. The price is not competitive with traditional power at this point. The playing field's getting leveled, but it's still not there. So this choice really is about creating a demand that has a significant enough impact to make a difference on an industry that I do think that most people support. And so when you're thinking about it, kind of think of it as like a cost benefit, but we're defining the benefits a little bit different. Okay, the second thing is that the discussion kind of goes back to lower or lowest price. And I know price is totally what this is about, but we never were given a figure. We were never given a percentage. We had no idea when we voted for this what that number was going to be. We never had anything set in stone. So the difference of saving $25 a month or saving $75 a month, when you take the time to talk to people, and it's not a discussion of sound bites. It's most people don't want to talk about electricity or energy, but when you really kind of explain what this is about, most people really support it, and they just don't know how. So when you're keeping that in mind, these communities that are choosing renewable really kind of understand that that's what they're doing. It has less of an environmental benefit and more of a market benefit for this industry. So, and just adding, I kind of spend a lot of time in the clean energy and energy efficiency world, and it is very exciting in this world, and people do get really excited about it, talking about it. And these communities that are doing that, they're very proud of the decisions their communities are making. So I just would really like to kind of be able to say that about Downers Grove as well. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for sharing your comments and keeping that on the radar screen. Other questions or comments old habits. Other questions or comments with respect to the public hearing topic, which is electrical aggregation, plan of operation, and governance? Hearing none, I will then once again ask if any member of the village council wishes to make a statement or ask a question on this topic. Commissioner Newstead.
Is Westmont going to go along with our changes to their plan of governance also, or is that we have the ability to be separate in how we?
We have the ability to be separate, but at this point, the Westmont plan of governance is tracking the same as the Downers Grove plan of governance.
Thank you. Thank you for making those changes from our last public hearing to tonight. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Waldeck.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick points. Just a reminder that when the village decides on what rates they're going to go with and how they're going to go about it, you still have the opportunity. So if we do 100% renewable and you decide that you would rather go a different way, you still have that option when you opt out. So that's one point. And another very simple question came up over the weekend. This does apply only to village residents, not unincorporated areas.
That is correct. Only village residents are eligible to participate in the aggregation program.
Sometimes we know these things, but not everybody understands. So just to clear that up. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schnell.
Just clarification, when we go out for bids, we are going to ask for, not with the 6% that's mandated of renewable energy that's mandated by the state, and then we're going to do increments within a two. So was it 25 or 25, 50, 75, and 100? So that when we get the information back on the 5th, we'll have all those figures available to us.
Yes, we will have preliminary pricing for each of those options.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Newstead.
Just to make a point about Commissioner Waldeck, individuals can opt out on their own. The aggregation that we're speaking of tonight is the municipal aggregation with other partners, in this case, the Village of Westmont. Anyone can opt out of their current ComEd setup. You've probably gotten phone calls at home about aggregate or about opting out of your current setup with other suppliers. So it is a possibility for unincorporated residents to do a change with their electrical suppliers.
Well said, because this is an option that exists currently for individuals, but you don't get the purchasing power that you do if you go with the municipal option. But the great thing about it is you have a choice. You can do it if you want. If you don't have to. Lots of choices. Commissioner Rankin.
And also to clarify, when we say we're going out to bid and we're going to have 25%, 50%, 75%, 100% renewable, that means that we are going to buy renewable energy credits for 25% of our power source. And then it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get wind energy here. It just means we're buying those credits on behalf of our residents. Is that right?
Yes, to offset 25% of our load, for example, if we were to choose that. Yes.
Thank you.
And then we're going to have a very strict audit process, and then we can track that electricity right from that wind farm in San Mateo, California, all the way here. Any other questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, I will then declare this public hearing adjourned. Thank you very much. And stay tuned, there'll be more on electrical aggregation as we move forward through this process. Hey, there are no further public